So, I skipped a day of recording yesterday because I just felt that there really wasn't a point if I was just gonna talk about my day that really, let's be honest, no one wants to listen to. Nothing interesting happens anyways. So, that's probably why I decided that I would be making actual videos on topics. And one of them I will be covering today. So, I would usually just use a mind map to outline an entire topic, research a bit into the specifics, and then find out enough for myself that would feel confident enough to talk about the topic. Of course, a lot of it is my own thinking. It might have been said by other YouTubers or channels before. I looked at some of the videos similar to this topic, and if you're wondering what the topic is, I called this capitalistic charity. You may be wondering what this is. It's probably not a term you've heard before. I randomly came up with it myself as referring to the way that this type of charity works. And if you're familiar with this type of social issues, you're probably aware of something called philanthrocapitalism, which is essentially billionaires imposing changes on society positively or in whatever way, using long-term investments to help a society. So they usually would deal with larger amounts of money, like in the millions and billions. For example, the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, which supports communities and help fight poverty, diseases, and etc. That's considered philanthrocapitalism, which is an actual long-term investment. And what I'm talking about today, the idea of capitalistic charity, it's different in the way that capitalistic charity is more of a one-time thing that doesn't necessarily involve like amounts of money that are way too large. For example, the millions. Sometimes it goes up to a million. Maybe I'm specifically referring to a YouTube trend that a lot of people seem to like. And philanthrocapitalism is more of a focus on a group, while capitalistic charity is more focused on individuals, which creates more of an issue with the individual to the society rather than like perhaps how it affects a group. So if you haven't realized yet, the topic I am talking about today is, to put it simple, is Mr. Beast good for YouTube? You might be wondering, like, yeah, of course he has like almost 100 million subs. He has, I think, 97 million subs as I'm recording this. You may be wondering, well, yeah, he entertains a lot of people, so by utilitarian standards, he must be pretty good for society. And in such way, you can argue, yes, he brings more happiness to the viewers, whether you see him as more of a commercial person or charity person. But what I'm addressing today here is how he influences or affects the people that are actually in his video, the ones where he gives away a house or gives away a car to. And first of all, I should mention the issue of the moral authenticity, in which this case I call recording your own actions of kindness. I don't think that's not necessarily authentic kindness, because you're posing for camera, you're doing stuff in front of a camera, and perhaps you're acting that way because you have to, because everything's being recorded. That's one of the things that I'm not gonna get too deep into, because that's a whole different issue of how would you actually act, how we really are as people. There's no moral authenticity regarding online socialization or online platforms nowadays, so we're not really gonna cover that. I would talk about that in a different video. But what I want to talk about is how he financially affect these people that he donates monies or properties or goods to. Of course, I'm not saying that Mr. Beast is a bad person in any way or form. He has a lot of actual good long-term charity projects, like Team Trees and etc., that really do help the world. But I'm mostly gonna discuss the issues with his channel that amasses most of his views instead of his charity projects. It's usually those like getting a person to spend $1 million in less than 24 hours, paying as much as I can for these people in a certain shop, and etc. So it looks really fancy, right? It looks like he's making these people so much happier by giving them material goods, but that's the first problem. People are not good at dealing with money, especially if they're in lower classes. They've never tasted what spending large amounts of money are like, or maybe that's a reason they're poor in the first place, because a lot of people do tend to spend money too easily. So, first of all, by donating just large amounts of money one time to these supposedly people in need of help, it does not directly combat the true reason for poverty. And the reasons to this, what I call true poverty, means poverty as a result of perhaps the system they live in, the conditions that they actually live in, and just perhaps the financial troubles that are more deeply rooted than simply their conditions. For example, how their understanding of financial use or stability. Maybe they don't know how to manage their money too well, and they would spend a lot at once and then find themselves left with nothing. So, first of all, the reason for poverty, as I see it, is the lack of opportunities and long-term stability. Poverty doesn't mean that they're always poor necessarily. A lot of times they do, but not always. It's issues that cannot be fixed with checks and cash. It's something rooted, such as like lack of education, or perhaps the lack of social contacts and relations. That's especially common nowadays in the society where everyone's pretty alienated, like in person. We're all online. That we don't feel like we can get a lot done in like face to face, in person, etc. And of course, the problem with this is pretty clear. First of all, they're not gonna be able to just simply get rich by people giving them cash if it's something rooted in, for example, their education or social connections. Money is not what dictates a person's social class. It's more of who they're surrounded by. You don't necessarily have to be rich to be surrounded by high-class people. And high-class people are oftentimes not just rich, but they're usually very well-educated. And if a person's well-educated, they would not usually be struggling with money. So, of course, there's a lot of exceptions to that, but speaking in the case of a society where education supposedly brings you money through your degrees or etc. And by education, I don't just mean having a degree. It means to have the ability to think and to manage all these things. So that's only one of the things. And another problem that I see with this type of video is they're fun for people to watch because of a direct result of consumerism. So Mr. Beast's video on YouTube encourages a lot of consumerism. The spending the large fortunes, oftentimes in the lowest it's a few thousand, in the highest it's up to $1 million. I can't recall if there were more, but it satisfies a lot of middle class viewers dreams of spending that much money. But this type of consumerism, it's not nearly as realistic as people think it is with like rich people. A lot of people just think that upper class rich people just go on like a spending spree, but I can guarantee that rich people actually are pretty frugal most of the times, old money anyway, because I'm not familiar with how newer families who just got rich spend their monies, but most people who get rich aren't just rich because they get a lot of income, but it's because they know how to manage their money. And the problem with modern consumerism is that it encourages people to not save up and just spend all their money on goods because apparently modern goods are just advertised so well. And what Mr. Beast's video does to people is it gives a lot of people who don't know any better the idea and just to spend all their money, just to spend all their money when they get it. And it may feel good for a few moments, whether it's like a few days, 2 weeks or so. The feeling dies out easily. Consumerism is directly related to how materialistic people are, and the more consumerism affects people's lives, the deeper people sink into this hellhole of materialism. And a lot of times people even realize that these goods don't actually make them happy, but they're still tied to it nonetheless because that's the habit they're used to. And I was watching a video by Then and Now on this topic earlier, the history of consumerism and etc. That it seems that in the more sophisticated ages, people tend to be less materialistic. So maybe that says something about our current society as well, which I will talk about in a bit as well. And finally, the another problem with these type of videos is that it diverges a lot of people's attentions from the actual issues of poverty. And like, yeah, Mr. Beast sometimes in his videos talk about the conditions of these people's lives, but it doesn't really make people think. It's like a feel good story. Okay, it makes people feel like, oh, so look at them, so nice that they finally get like a better house to live in or something. But there's way more to that than the surface layer feel good. And sometimes I feel like by dealing people large masses of fortunes or goods or properties, it doesn't actually help them. For example, in the long term, you bought them a new house, but how are they gonna pay the taxes if they don't have anything to follow them up? What about all the other issues that may arise? What about if they have to fix the house? What if they spend too much money because they don't know how to manage their money as a result of Mr. Beast's donation of, for example, house or a car, etc.? I mean, I don't have any issues with giving people things. I am a strong advocate for charity. My dad is professionally involved with charities, and I love doing charities, organized charities. And of course, that I'm talking about all this because I'm genuinely involved with what it means to help support a community, help support people. And I just don't think his videos really reflect those values. It's this is the next thing I'm talking about. It doesn't really reflect what charity is. It gives people the wrong notion of charity, the wrong idea of how charity actually works, and that leads to a lot of people who are on social media filming like them giving away like an iPhone or iPad. And I just want to say there's a very strong difference between a PR commercial act versus actual charity. Like you see sometimes like Nike, for example, having like a commercial advertisement, like building a school for like a rural area of kids, then filming a video. That's a commercial charity. That's spreading their brand. If it's done by a company, it likely shows that there's commercial interest involved. But a lot of people just do these on the street giveaways to film people's reactions, and I feel like people are more interested in the reactions of the people who get the things than than actually being kind to people. And I just want to say being kind to people doesn't mean just spending money for them. And I think that's a big thing that we have to get over as a society. And beyond these points, another big issue is the encouragement of celebritism. If you're not aware of what celebritism is, it essentially means constructing a celebrity's persona for the public, and it's pretty similar to the historical concept of a cult of personality, which was used to describe like specifically authoritarian state leaders. For example, Joseph Stalin, Adolf Hitler, they all had cult of personality built around them, and of course Mao Zedong, he had a really strong one. It made people believe that they were things that they were not necessarily, and a lot of celebrities nowadays are doing this. They're creating a persona for themselves, a really good one, so they can market it to fans, and a lot of them do these like kind acts that are filmed, and I don't know if they're genuinely trying to be good people or they're trying to just to market, because on the other hand, there's celebrities who just are actual good people and they don't want to be filmed doing good things. And with Mr. Beast's trend of just giving away stuff, it led to a lot of it had a lot of social influence on influencers and people to just give away stuff randomly and film it. And the worst part is there's been cases where right after filming it, they try to steal it back from the people they gave it to. I've seen videos of this online. I'm not sure if it was real or staged, but this probably is a realistic social issue that people are doing so much just to film a video for social media. Maybe it says something about our society, and I'm just not really sure where we go as a society from this point. So, and of course, the situation speaks a lot about the society than just about Mr. Beast, because of course the people watching his videos are all mostly just people living their everyday lives. And in my point of view, this maybe shows that people really want to be cheered up by the actions of other people because of just how depressing the society is nowadays, and whether they're looking for the reactions of people who just received something really nice, or maybe they just want to see people go on a spending spree. It's, in my opinion, it's not really good videos. It's just pretty much a lack of taste. But those videos still get over 80 million views. I think the highest one was in the hundreds, or 130 something million views. It shows that there's really a lack of critical thinking about these topics. It might be related to once again consumerism, and furthermore tittytainment, which is a topic I would cover in the future. I'm not sure about how much I would cover about that topic because there's so much on it. And this video is already, what, 18 minutes now? So there's so much I can talk about that I don't know if anyone wants to actually listen to, but it's all very interesting topics, all the social issues. And finally, just to evaluate, does the act of capitalistic charity actually help people in need? So with the example of Mr. Beast, let's evaluate this. In the short term, does giving someone a house, giving someone a free car, does buying someone like $50,000 worth of stuff at Walmart help them? It probably does. It gives them stuff that can help them in their daily lives. It may bring materialistic happiness to them for however long that may last. It may be a good memory for them to hold. But in the long run, it doesn't really change their lifestyle, does it? You just added a few more things in their daily lives. For example, a new TV, a new car. It might help their lives become a bit easier, but did you increase their social stability? I'm not sure about that. That's, of course, not my place to evaluate, but I'm just putting the question out there just for people to think about. There's a lot of unknown factors that affect this, and it's combating poverty is way more than just giving people stuff, giving people money. And I hope that notion is not instilled in people, because it really seems to be a problem nowadays that people don't actually know what is charity and how to be involved with charity. And you can argue that the act itself of capitalistic charity is a means justified by the ends thing. That, yeah, even though you're filming this, you're still giving people stuff and making their lives better, but um just with me, it doesn't really sit right. I'm not really a utilitarian who would say, like, yeah, it brought a general happiness to the viewers and to the people who receive it, so it's a positive. I'm more focused on perhaps the long term fixes of social issues, such as like people in difficult conditions or poverty and etc. I think there's a lot more things that should be combated before the concept of fortune comes into people's mind. And in my opinion, the best way for that is education. And education is so important that, ironically, it helps you realize that you don't really need money to live a really happy life. Yes, you might want to have enough money, but you realize that things that really matter are beyond material. And of course, that's a topic for another time I will be discussing, maybe in the next few videos, but this is just kind of sad to see how society really inclines to this type of videos. And I just had this thought of, what if I make a video on it? I don't know who'll listen, but maybe the ideas would spread. Of course, I don't mean anything negative to Mr. Beast. I think he's someone who wants to make the society a better place. I just don't really think his public methods are necessarily that convincing, or it just doesn't do it for me. There's a lot more methods that one can do to help their local society, etc. And of course, I know that YouTube videos are just a way for him to make his income, so he can keep doing his other projects to actually help society. I'm not really like judging him as a person or channel, and God, if I receive like death threats from his fans, because I've seen people get threatened by his fans before, it really shows you what type of place the online world is. It's not really a good one, but anyway, that's just my view on the topic. There's a lot more I can discuss. I think I'll be a lot better at presenting these issues once I actually get into video editing. I've been a bit lazy the past few days. Probably gonna be pretty lazy for the next few weeks as well, so we'll see when I actually bring a lot of statistics and facts into this. But anyway, those are my thoughts. I can't believe I made a video this long. If you've actually listened through the whole thing, well, congratulations. I really don't expect anyone to listen to the whole thing. I'm just ranting about my thoughts, and I kind of enjoy doing it. So if you enjoy listening to it, I really appreciate it, and I just hope you have a nice day. But anyway, here's me signing off. I don't know. I should have a closer, right? But nah. Anyway, good night.